So we basically had 2 months to work out.
So May 16th was the day that we announced, I'm a candidate, so when would you start?
What was that, 2 months? Did you say?
Mm-hmm.
May 16th was when we started.
I would say even then.
Yeah, I would say like
once you know, get people on it.
So
I would start 2 months before that.
yeah, I'm with Keith on that one.
March.
My big takeaway was we really needed our crew and at least $3,000 worth of money ready to go on day one, the first day you're allowed to put stuff up.
Yep.
And also tasks assigned out at that point for some of the preliminary tasks.
Yeah, my take on it is we need to start immediately after tax return season is over. So we're going to say March. Is that right? Is what you said? March.
Yeah, March. Yeah.
You don't think sooner?
We could.
We don't want to burn out also.
Well, I think there's levels of team too. If you say you've got the 3 or 4 person team, and then the crew, and then the generality, I think the 3 or 4 person team might be starting a lot earlier, maybe December.
Jared,
That's
you
what I
kind
was
of
picturing.
threw something in
You
there
think
a little bit. Is that your official?
That is my official position, is that at least with mini races, immediately following tax season.
Why tax surge?
I believe that a lot of people have cash, particularly in this group, back, that the government has been very graciously holding on to it for us. And when people have skin in the game, they work harder. So if someone says I don't have any money whatsoever to contribute to my own campaign, I think that is not very helpful.
I agree.
But if you do say, I do have at least this much I can give, that sets the context for the entire campaign. Actually, people tend to give more to people who give to their own campaigns because they believe they're taking it seriously. That's just the way it is. Now, go for it.
I would say advertise the website because I didn't even know there was a website until today.
Me too.
Yeah,
Well, they did share it a lot on Facebook.
Yeah.
I never saw it.
It's basically
And handed materials.
I would also say to that on the website addition, we need to have our own separate site, not connected with some other vote or something. Our own site for each candidate.
I agree with that. I think vote for Yakima is valuable, but we need to have individual candidate ones so that vote for Yakima exists as an independent thing.
Yes, which is going to happen. Just as a point of clarification, Vote for Yakima is the website that we made. We did a pretty decent amount of content considering we only had it up for 2 months or so. And it exists as a political entity, and what we probably will be doing with it, although this is a different conversation, not really a debrief conversation, is have it as a kind of a publication of sorts that is handed to a voter with Vote for Yakima recommendations of who to vote for, which is a very serious need. As an example, the judges are basically a crapshoot most of the time because people don't know who to vote for because it's not an R or a D, so they just don't know who to vote for.
Oh, sorry, we've moved on from the something to do again, but basically putting the recommended votes.
Now the time, please. The recommended votes.
It's
Yeah.
5:55.
All right then. So what else do we need to do?
Well, I think a lot of this conversation has highlighted the big one. I was kind of surprised. Well, first off, I should say I was very honored and blessed at how much people volunteered. But I was kind of surprised how many people, even ones I'd had personal conversations with, of like, hey, show up at the meeting tomorrow. That a month and a half later, they'll say something like, oh, I didn't even realize you guys were doing it. I was like, are you kidding me? I've been taking you for 2.5 months now to come and just that we've said what we're about over and over again to a lot of people, and that I had individual conversations, and then would still get right up to the week of the election people saying, I didn't realize you guys were doing that, I don't know what you stand for, I'm not sure if I'm behind it kind of statements. And I got that from a lot of people, including a lot of people in this room, and that's not me complaining about them, that's saying I don't understand why that is or how else else I would get that through to them, and we need something that gets our own people to understand whether they're in or out.
Well, I have some feedback on that, and I think this is really important. In my experience around, limited experience around doing the campaign stuff, and in my extensive experience around volunteers, people don't really believe you're going to do something until you do it. Then they're interested in contributing. So honestly, I think that for this first campaign, it was the hardest because it was a cold start. That's how I feel about it. That may not answer your question completely, because obviously there are individual situations, but speaking broadly, I've had extensive experience. The banquet and ball is a great example. I talked about doing a banquet and ball since I graduated from prep school. And when it came right down to it, it was finally time to do it. The people that were there to really make it happen wound up being Keith and Holly, not anybody, no family member at my church.
And it was
Because I talked too much.
I had one thing.
Yes.
I received a business card, and on one side it told me to vote for Zach, and on the other side it told me to vote for Keith, and it wasn't extremely obvious that they were in different districts. And I feel like if we're going to ever have two people running for something, being very, very separate about their advertising, just so that we're not competing against ourselves.
Thank you for saying that.
Or just at least
So true. The signs should be different, the cards should be different, the fonts should be different.
Because if you both
There
have
was
the
so
same
much
thing in
confusion.
different colors.
Keith, there's some guy who stole your sign.
Yeah.
I designed it.
Wait,
So there's one, last name needs to be way more visible on both of our things. First thing you see is last name. I think the face was great, but we need the last name to be the most memorable thing.
I thought Cora was going to say something. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, I actually think that the problem there was our clarity. That I actually think it's important to go, like I got a lot of people when I said, oh, we're actually going for 2 candidates. Like we're not just going for a little position here, we're actually trying to get 2 people in here and take this over as a team. I got a lot more interest from people. So to me, the problem with that isn't that we had 2 people, it was that we weren't clear.
Yeah.
So I actually like the idea of specifically having it paired, but we just need to make that really clear and simple.
I'm with what Emily said, and some feedback we got early on from Robin Johnson, I think probably Keith would back me on this, is that when a lot of people have a friend who is one of the candidates, and when you run 2 people as a block, they're like, well, I would go for your block. I got nothing against Zach, but I have a friend who's running in his district, so I guess I'm not going to support Keith either, or vice versa. And I think we ran into a fair amount of that from people who were already plugged in.
Yep. It was a major blow up on us. Didn't work. That's my
The coffee house, something that the police department did when we were advertising for our rough fun run was they gave us about 100 stickers with what is that thing that you can scan on your phone?
QR code.
The QR code. All we did was stick like 100 stickers on our cups. It was easy. Dave was like, sure, go ahead. If it's easy, I don't care. And if I don't have anything to do with it, I don't care. That was advertising for them. So whether you went to coffee houses and didn't say vote for so-and-so, all it had was a QR code saying something about voting for Yakima. And then it would send it right to the site of the people we were voting for. I just thought of that. Otherwise,
That's great.
No, that is great.
Something we need to do again is
What's the code called?
QR code.
we need to
You
have
can also do the
someone in charge.
Field.
So the candidate is the one that has to make most of the decisions, right? And has to interface with everyone and do the fundraising, and get the endorsements, and like spend money wisely, and like the candidate's kind of the break point.
Yeah.
But what we need to have is people who are in charge, quote unquote, of certain areas for any candidate. And if you want to be in charge of the certain area over and over again for every election we do, then you'll become a specialist and you'll become awesome at it. And things we need to have people in charge of are endorsements, fundraising, community outreach,
The PDC stuff.
absolutely PDC, which is legal financial requirement.
Public discussion.
Crap.
Yeah, it's not super hard, but it make a mistake and it's a big hassle to unwind it.
It's hard to remember all the dates.
And just intimidating.
Yeah. Anyway, if we had one person, like Emily, if you were in charge
I put this.
of making sure I got 50 endorsements before election day. And you could go get some of your own, but you would just call me up once a week, say, Keith, have you gotten any? Keith, have you gotten any? You know, be the Jiminy Cricket to the candidate. I think that would be a good system for
That's really good.
involvement
That's really good.
without, you know,
Burnout.
yeah.
One of those ones that we need specifically, and I'm not sure if this fits in here, but I think one of the biggest things that we could do, and I've been thinking about this a lot, is specifically we need that guy for signs, and I think what we need to do is have our signs pre-bought a full month before the first day. You can have them up, and break streets down into a section where.
Social media, Jared, social media.
Well, if I can finish the sign thing, I think the way this would work best is we'd have a couple guys with trucks who can do the big signs, and we've scouted out our location. We break it down into streets. So like I'd say, Leah and Alex have some of you near their house from 72nd to 48th or something like that. And on day one, first day you're allowed to post signs, they drive out at 6 a.m., get all the signs up, and then for the entire remainder of the election, they're keeping those signs sharp. Because it took us a long time to get our signs up, and as soon as they were vandalized, we didn't have the manpower to get them back up.
And you notice Mike Leda, who this is his 4th election, has learned his.
I think he hired an outside firm to do it.
Well, you know, I mean, he's learned his lesson, and his are like sturdy, hammered, staked.
Right, his were hard to vandalize, like
Yeah.
keeping it literally. We got really nice big signs that were big sales for flyers.
Right.
But I think like
Jared.
sign was a burnout for us. If we broke it down that way, I think we would solve the burnout and also the places getting trashed. If you look at it as like, hey, they trashed my street. Dylan was offended when people trashed his street and went and personally took care of it. I think we can capitalize on that.
So, right there, those 7 things we're looking at our morning meeting committee.
Yep.
That's our morning meeting committee, and everyone's in charge of something.
And then we agonized about one of these things every time.
Yep.
Can we
The
take a
community outreach is more about.
Can we take a pause real quick and then catch up?
While you're pitching, I want to say something. I don't think that like every single one of these people needs to be basically just have like one manager that manages all these people and then takes whatever happens in that meeting and then delegates that to the rest.
Sometimes.
Okay. The sign guy doesn't have to be there the whole campaign.
Yeah, because that's like
Just-
But those people might also be doorbellers.
and they might want to be there.
She disappeared. Amen?
Amen.
Now, from here on out, it is my ambition that Christians get elected to political office out of our family, and that we get to the position where we are taking dominion of the Yakima Valley through political positions, as well as through family business, and as well as through the arts.
And
So,
charity.
What I want to get to at some point is that we are populated with entrepreneurs and civil servants and artists. And that means I personally need to grow out of being an employee at Toppenish Community Hospital, if you follow me. And that's something that I'm working on and have been working on for about a year and a half. So if you could please be in prayer, I would like to become a police officer, because either Phil or I, or maybe both of us, need to get in the position where we can run for sheriff. That means somebody needs to become a police officer, amen? Or Alex, or obviously we don't have, like I said, there's more positions than there are people.
There is so much negative culture in the cop shop that you really would, I think, to dominate it, need a team of 3 kind of in some sub-department of cop shop working together to change the culture.
Amen. Amen?
When's the next election thing?
We need at least
Is it
2 or
years?
more.
Or next
For
year?
commission,
There's two.
Every
No,
year?
next election at all.
Right there in one.
The next
So
election,
we might wanna go for.
Every November.
I mean,
yeah, this November, we have
What you doing,
people,
sir?
and Vote for Yakima is probably going to try and pull some things together. We'll be interfacing with the church
don't
around
mess
that.
with me, I'm gonna beat
We'll Vote for Yakima, be essentially the church, what that means, what that look like. That whole conversation needs to be had.
Well, what I mean is to get candidates into.
Right, so that would be next year.
And Keith has a list of some things that he can talk with you about.
Posted it.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
Can I have the floor for while you
Please,
guys
and we're
take
gonna
off?
leave, yeah, we're gonna leave.
So long.
We do need to have an eldership meeting next week. So elders, would you please be available next week after church?
So I'm just writing this down. I wasn't gonna say it, but I feel like I should say it because I was just gonna write down my piece. I just started writing down my opinions instead of voicing them. But so the last one was just, I think that we needed to make a complete marketing mix. This is just from my experience in moving down to Tri-Cities and trying to promote a new company down there, is that we went out and did door knocking in Richland and, you know, had great results from the door knocking. But then I put up a sign guy in West Richland when I moved to the different city. Put up a sign guy, then did door knocking. Just a guy in a corner holding a sign. And I got at least, so I get at least 2 leads a day. 2 leads a day, people calling in saying they saw the sign, they saw the sign, they saw the sign, they saw the sign. So when you put up the sign in in complement with the door knocking,
Alright.
well, I saw your sign guy.
I'm gonna take that and run, actually.
Cool.
And I'm gonna postpone what I was just gonna talk about.
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
So just anyone?
She's got that written down.
Gotcha. Just a little information that we gleaned, just for your own brain, is that the primary, we talked, old people. The primary is voted on by old people. I intentionally didn't do much to the painstaking frustration of Jared and Zach. I intentionally didn't doorbell because I wanted to see how much social media would work. You can't do science if you do everything. You have to eliminate. Apologies.
No, I don't think they were necessary. You were running your own campaign, and you can only do so many good ones.
So what we learned is that doorbelling works for the primary. In the general election, everybody and their dogs and cats are going to be voting because the presidential election is up.
I don't have this much attention span.
So social media will be a much bigger deal. Anyway, so here's what I suggest for future elections, and this is for the Vote for Yakima. I suggest that we come up with a logo for the Vote for Yakima. All right.
99%.
Right. Yep. So it'll be, and we print it on a little sign. It's a little 4-inch by 4-inch sign. And as we go doorbelling, we say, "Can I put this sign in your yard?" It's like the size of a colonial sign. And the more of those that are in people's yards, yeah.
Cool.
So all of a sudden, there's a Vote for Yakima sign in 5,000 yards throughout the city, and that'll get the Vote for Yakima traction. But what we need for that to work is someone in charge of making sure the website's always up to date with information, and someone making sure the social media is up to date with information. Because if people go with videos of the candidates, information about, oh, we went to this debate, things like that. You know? So it doesn't work if the content isn't there. And I think this is a tool which you can make the biggest difference in the county.
Yeah.
Is a solid website that has content that's relevant and timely.
Well, and just if you show up at a thing, you personally as a random guy, not the web jockey, doing the little 30-second video of Keith talking and say, hey, I was at the thing and saw Keith talk. He rocked.
Right.
And I know there were a bunch of people who had nothing to do with us who were like, I wish we had the whole debate, and several times we had just Keith or I. So
If we would have taken a vote at the debate, I think out of District 2, I think I would have.
yeah, and the thing was, alarmingly, in this age of media, nobody is actually giving you the people themselves. They're giving you their take on it, their cap, and there's a lot of people who are asking, hey, did you actually just have a video of the debate? And I was like, no, they had a short cap summary. I think us just showing up at the thing and doing crappy cell phone video of the whole thing, if you're the only one who has the whole debate on video, you have a lot of traction. And if we can do it a little bit better than that and have not just our candidate, but all the candidates that we're, you know, if you want to hear Lada's take on it, you have to go to Vote for Yakima. Because this is the only one that actually recorded him going over his time.
And Jared's talked about, he has, in his mind, he hasn't told me what they are yet, he has 4 measures at which he measures candidates. And if we could set up that sort of system on the website where it's easy, you can just look, you know, we can list all the candidates and where they measure on these 4 things. And, you know, maybe I'm not the best candidate, but you can see. So the Vote for Yakima is an information house.
Yeah.
And I think for the future. So what else I wanted to go through real quick, I posted this online, City of Yakima Boards and Commissions. These are committees that are available for volunteers. Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee. To provide the community-based advisory committee for the review, comment, and idea generation related to the development, maintenance, and planning of the network of facilities for bicycles, pedestrians, and public streets. Right. So that's the kind of the idea. Board of Appeals. This is a big deal. That's code.
I've actually worked with this board before.
Term limitation, there's no requirements. The responsibility is to hear appeals from decisions of the building inspector. If you want to make a difference in your city, Board of Appeals Commission. It's a 3-year term with 7 members.
And it's chaired by Jeff Peters, who is the...
Okay, gotcha.
You know how I talked about there's administrative unelected people who are making your decisions? This is how you get to be one of them. The guy that you didn't vote for, who was hired, is appointing these people that Keith is listing out.
Charter City Employees Civil Service Commission. They adopt rules, administer merit principles, govern the appointment, promotion, transfer, layoff, removal, discipline, and welfare of classified employees other than police and fire. So if you want to make a difference in the employees of the city. City of Yakima Planning Commission. Residency requirements are the only requirements. You have to live in the city. Long-range planning body for the City of Yakima, monitor the growth and development of the city, develop and recommend city council subdivision ordinances, investigate and make recommendations on land use, study and report all proposed text changes to land use ordinances, advise the city council on land use matters. If you've ever gone to a council meeting or a commissioner meeting, they basically take the word of any advisory committee and run with it. So these, and I think that's a fault, but
Yes, I agree emphatically. Those people are usually real estate developers and so on who are making the
listen
rules
to
for
this. Community
I don't like-
Integration Exploratory Committee.
That's a tough one.
The committee is tasked with providing a final report to the City Council with its recommendation on whether or not a permanent committee should be created to address improving community integration and other similar matters of the City of Yakima. The committee is tasked with exploring and evaluating what issues are occurring in Yakima that would fall under such committee. Basically, these are lots of very committees that shouldn't exist.
Yes.
And that one. So you could join the committee and advise the city council that the committee shouldn't exist.
You know, I'm actually.
Which I guarantee anyone who's part of the committee is going to tell the city council, oh yes, this needs to exist. There's big problems. And we can solve them
That.
with more government.
I should do that. That one, I think I might. And people will hate me, but.
Alright, I'm going to skip a couple because here's another exploratory committee. And
Which
this
one
is the
is this?
one you need to go to.
Oh.
Ethics and Equal Rights Exploratory Committee. 1 year, because it's an exploratory committee. This committee is tasked with providing a final report to City Council with its recommendation on whether or not a permanent committee should be created. To address equality, discrimination, and other similar matters in the city of Yakima. The committee is tasked with exploring and evaluating what issues are occurring in Yakima that would fall under such a committee, as well as what other jurisdictions, cities, councils. Alright, this council is going to decide whether the committee is going to continue, and this is the type of committee that will over-regulate to the bone.
All of those were, but this
Yep.
is the one that would make most of us mad
So-
directly.
You need to join it, and there needs to be one lawyer on this council.
Is that a direct requirement, actually?
One lawyer. Yep. I think that was it. You can read through them all. Housing Board Authority. There's even a, I don't think any of us, I would be the closest one to qualify, and I don't even think I qualify. Yakima Arts Commission.
Oh, I'm actually somewhat familiar with them through the makerspace stuff because they're interrelated.
It's a council of 14 members.
So Yakima Arts Commission pays for a bunch of stuff, and they get their money from Beer Fest.
And they make their decisions on what public art goes up. But you have to be, oh no, only 2 working artists. Oh, okay, yeah, you could do it.
They also end up having a lot of unofficial power. Like they basically, it was just because they'd helped with them that Makerspace got their grant to have their power, and basically got fire department off of their back over code. Yakima Arts Commission
Really?
carries a lot of weight.
Wow, that's crazy. That's crazy, they could overrule a fire.
So potentially Hop Nation
They
is an
didn't
example.
overrule it. They were just basically like, "Hey, could you give them some slack? This is all they got."
That's amazing.
And we had our
There's
third
nothing
floor
that trumps
swing
fire code.
screwed up by. Right now, there's basically a bully who's a fire inspector who goes down to just shows up a random business and says, "I'm shutting you down. You're in violation. By the way, can I look and see if you're in violation of anything?" Like before he's even looked, he's issuing citations this way. And I've now heard from 3 or 4 businesses that have basically had this like mafia protection money style shakedown.
Wow.
That he shows up like.
So that's the end of what I wanted to, there's a link on the Conquest Facebook page for anyone who wants to hop in on advisory. So, because that's what we can do in the next 4 years.
There's a link on which Facebook page?
Conquest.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent work, Keith.
Yeah.
So, part of what's cool about this, guys, is that the sooner we know what those positions are and you pick one, the sooner you can actually like start preparing yourself for what am I going to need for this position.
Right. So I'm going to join one of these committees so that I'm more electable next time.
Yeah.
That was something that I wanted to add, if you want to write this down, was I wanted to see all future candidates getting
Actually,
involved in
you
different.
should talk. Because you're...
I just, oh. I
You
just
ran
have one
things more than
thing.
Jared.
I wanted to see all future candidates getting involved in different organizations around Yakima, branching out from here so that we can get the older vote as well, like we will get Rotary clubs, some of the women's clubs. That's what we
You said the older vote?
Yeah, and so these committees play a part in that, so I'm glad that you had that to
Yes.
add.
And if each of us can pick one thing to get involved in, you know, don't pick 2 or 3. That's a waste of time. That's a waste of your time. Pick one thing to get involved in. Rotary, you know, Harmon Center, anything.
Could you explain like the average like time commitment that looks like weekly?
It would depend on.
Yeah, Chamber of Commerce would be like 1 meeting a month plus a couple things, sort of like being on the syndicate board.
I honestly believe you got a lot of votes because of BNI. Just you have a lot of business contacts.
I might have. I might have also. I'm well aware that most people in business honestly don't take me too seriously.
Hmm.
and it might have had a lot of Joe-esque.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good job. By the way, Faith, thank you for how much work you put in. Like, really.
You, every other time, were either really confident or really not confident to a degree that was not usual for you. And it was very palpable when you were confident you got great crowd reaction and vice versa. So, like...
Okay, I wasn't too confident on the radio, was I?
No, and the one...
That was horrible.
But I think we could, like, give you some visible steel, even if it's not your personal style, that would punch you up a couple notches with a lot of people.
I have a quick question.
Thank you.